first guest this morning will be watching the Eurovision Song Contest, the semi-final tonight, or indeed the final on Saturday. Will you, Laurence?
My wife always makes me watch it, yes. Yeah.
Makes me.
Makes me.
People say that. It's just an excuse. You like it, really.
I absolutely love it, yes.
Laurence Sanderson, independent financial consultant at Sterling and Law. Welcome back.
Very good morning to you again, Ian.
Morning. Not quite so nice out there this morning, is it?
No, but it was amazingly bright at 5 to 5 this morning. I was trying to wake up anyway.
I thought it seems lighter today, but it definitely seems cooler and damper. Not a bad morning for some public sector staff if they're retiring on their £50,000 a year pension. 12,000 of them.
Oh, it's absolutely astonishing. It's
Get a pension out.
Yeah, it's in the Daily Mail this morning.
That's not the whole pot, is it? That's a year.
That's a year. It's 50,000 a year. An even more frightening figure is that there's 150 people, 150 public sector workers who have got a pension part of, or retiring on 100,000 a year at the moment.
Wow.
And this is from a report written by the former Bank of England economist, a chap called Neil Record, who's described it as a huge Ponzi scheme. So if you think about how these pensions are funded, the government doesn't really set any money aside for it.
Right.
So people working today will be funding the pensions for public sector workers. There's not a big pot of money set aside for it.
Okay.
And the actual amount of money to fund this, there's a lot of zeros on this one again today.
Right.
£1,700 billion to fund all these pensions for public sector pensions, which is £600 billion more than the government's own forecast of what it's going to cost. So it's as you can imagine. What they've also they've tried to apportion this to how much the tax bill is per working person in the UK, and it's £35,000 per working person. This is costing
to pay those pensions.
Yes, it's enormous. And these are gold-plated pensions. These,
that is huge.
It's massive. I mean, I don't even 1,700 billions. I'm not sure how many zeros there are on the end of that.
Oh dear, isn't it? Too early to count. Too early to count the zeros. These must have been people with very good jobs.
Yeah, obviously they're very good jobs. And that's
final salary pensions.
Yeah, final salary pensions, absolutely right. And if you kind of if you work out an equivalent, so if you were just building up a pot of money and you're not in a public sector scheme, you'd probably need a pot in the region of £1.4 million in your fund to fund a 50,000 a year pension.
Well, that's something for you to look forward to.
Yeah, so you'd have to put quite a lot of money away each month. But you have to start when you're about 3 years old as well.
Wouldn't you just?
Yes.
I mean, I suppose in the future that will become a thing of the past, won't they? I mean, pensions won't be like that. In your time.
Well, I'm not sure with public sector pensions. I'm not sure. There doesn't seem any desire to get rid of the final salary pension, the pension pot they're building up.
Sometimes people in the public sector will say, well, you know, we don't earn as much as we would in the real world, and we don't get the huge bonuses that you get in the real world. So, you know, the pension is our kind of bonus we have to wait for.
But then you've got a lot of self-employed people who've got to build up their own pots of money. Yeah, they don't get bonuses, you know, depending on how hard they work and how much money they're paying as well. Yeah, I think the problem that we're storing up a problem for future generations as well, because it's going to be our children and grandchildren that are going to have to fund this, and I think at some point it's going to become a bit of a problem if you're looking at the figures involved in it. So, yes, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, if you've got a pension like that, very nice too. Interest rates.
Yes.
The decision today. It's funny, isn't it? We used to sort of build up to this like almost for the whole month, and I had it even slipped my mind until you reminded me that it was interest rates day today.
Yeah,
you got so used to them staying static.
Yes, and they're probably going to stay static.
Do you think?
And, yeah, it's all kind of economic indicators are looking at. It's probably going to be sometime next year, early next year, when they'll change. But the MPC are getting more hawkish on it. Some of the members of the committee are kind of pushing for a rise a little bit sooner than we thought, which we did think was going to be next year, middle of next year.
The swings and roundabouts, of course. If you're paying a mortgage, then you don't want it to go up.
No,
if you've got savings and you have retired and you've got a bit of money behind you and you want to, you know, use your savings, then not great. Yes, I mean, obviously for savers, they've had a bad time recently because interest rates have been so low. But then you've got the issue of mortgages. And if you look at one of the good indicators for interest rates is watching how mortgage rates go up, and if you looked at mortgage rates on the 1st of April for a 2-year fixed rate, they were hovering around where's my figures, 3.52% kind of mark. 30th of April around the 3.61% mark. So
it's going. The mortgage rates are kind of edging up for mortgage lenders, and it's because they're predicting how the interest rates are going to increase in the future. So
we'll watch it with interest. We'll bring you the news as soon as it's announced on BBC Essex one way or the other. Thanks, Laurence.
Thank you very much indeed.
Good to see you. Laurence Sanderson, independent financial consultant at Sterling and Law.